Hey guys, I'm Allison, owner of Reveal Hair and Makeup. This is episode 1 of our wedding planner series. On my channel, we of course talk about hair and makeup, but since we have clients from all over the world, they're often sending us questions about Hawaii and about weddings. So as much as we can, I'll be sharing with you about Hawaii and about weddings too. So this episode is a series we're doing where we're interviewing a handful of Hawaii's wedding planners. There are so many amazing planners here to choose from, but they all have a different style and a different skill set, so it's really good to get information and tips directly from them. So if you're recently engaged or maybe you're planning a wedding here in Hawaii, this video is perfect for you. We'll have links to all of the other episodes in this series in the description below. Our first episode, we'll be having Louise, owner of Love Letter Weddings, join us. We're gonna have her join us through a Zoom call since we're still in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. We figured that would be the best way to get some information to you guys. Before I have her join us, please take a second to subscribe to our channel. Hey guys, I'm here with Louise. She is the owner of Love Letter Weddings and she designs and plans beautiful weddings. So we're gonna chat with her. Like I mentioned before, we're gonna get some tips and some insight all about planning weddings here in Hawaii. Hi, Louise.
Hi, Allison. Thank you for having me.
Of course, we're excited to hear from you. You have all of the details for us. So I'm gonna just kind of ask her some questions and she's gonna give us some answers and we will go from there. So Louise, what type of wedding do you specialize in?
So our company specializes in outdoor destination weddings on the island of Oahu. And aside from that, we're really big on helping our clients sift through all of the beautiful inspiration photos that they find on the internet and Pinterest and help them transform that into an event that is a reflection of who they are as a couple. And that's where we really like to help them personalize and create unique events.
Yeah, we definitely see that with your clients. They're always like something, just like a little personal flair that when we show up to do hair and makeup, it's like, oh yeah, you can see a little bit of them in every wedding, which I think it is, hard to do. And it definitely takes a planner to like nail that, tastefully. Yeah, that is why we love you. Next question for you is what, do you have any tips for like local brides or destination brides, and would those tips be different or would they be the same?
Yeah, that's a good question. Although we do specialize in working with couples who are planning from afar, I think our advice is really the same for both. And it really comes down to finding vendors that you love and trust. I highly recommend that anytime you're considering a vendor, you should always try and meet them face to face, whether it's through a video call or an in-person meeting, because I always tell my clients, you don't want to be surrounded by strangers on your wedding day. It's like such an emotionally charged day and you just want it to be happy and relaxed. And if you choose vendors that you truly connect with and you really love, it's just going to make the day that much better.
Right, and I definitely think, we feel the same way. That's why we love doing trials, because you kind of like get to know them a little bit more, and then the wedding day doesn't really have any surprises, So that is totally true. Whether they're local or destination, even though we live on a small island, we don't all know each other, and so you do want to do that for sure. Meet your vendors. That is a great tip. Do you suggest your clients come if their destination, like how many days ahead of their wedding do most of your clients come, or do you think is a good amount of time?
Yeah, that's a common question that I get actually from my clients. And it just depends on a few different things. Most of my clients, because they're planning outdoor events, they are working at venues where you can kind of bring in all of the elements, including like liquor and a lot of things that require a few extra errands. So, if that's the case, I usually recommend they come at least 3 days before their event. I always say, you have one day to kind of like land and relax. One day just to kind of like get all of those final meetings and errands out of the way. And then you're going to have your wedding rehearsal and family gathering stuff. And the next day is your wedding. So even 3 days is kind of like jam packed there. But just make sure you have some time to rest beforehand.
Yeah, I think that's a good amount of time. At least 3 days for sure if you're coming over here. The island does have traffic, and so the errands you run back home are not the same here for sure. Crowded islands, right? And then next is what is the number one question you have people ask you like during the planning process?
Well, I think kind of the biggest question or like overall concern that couples come to me with is they just don't know how to get started. And you know, with any big project, getting started is always the hardest part. And with weddings in particular, there's so many moving parts. I almost even kind of equate it to being like trying to figure out how to be a contractor for building a house. Like you've got to figure out where to get all these different, services from, whether, it's like a photographer or a landscaper or a plumber, whatever, you can kind of imagine you need all these things to bring it together to build this event. It's kind of a funny analogy, but I always love telling the grooms that, and they get it, clicks for them. But I think just knowing what to do first, second and third is really the most helpful, and that way you're not kind of overspending on the fun things, although that is really easy to do, but you're being very conscientious from the beginning on how you spend your money, and then also not wasting time in tackling things in an inefficient way. And of course, I may be biased, but having a wedding planner or a coordinator who also maybe offers consulting services can be really helpful to alleviate that concern.
Yeah, I think, especially during these times where contracts are more important than ever, really, like even just, knowing, insurance policies, like when you're a bride, most of them don't know, who needs to have insurance for what and why, they're like, I just want to get married. They're looking at flowers and dresses, and they're not thinking of like, even like linens and stuff like that kind of, it's more on like the back burner of what you imagine, your wedding to look like. And so I think it is good to have, like you said, kind of a process where you walk them through, step one, let's get through this, and then we go into this. Because yeah, of course, if we all talk about the fun stuff, nothing will get done, right?
Yeah. And, I always kind of like going back to my analogy of like, building a house or, being a contractor when you're planning a wedding. It's like everyone wants to start with the flowers and the dress, like they're pretty things, but that's kind of like doing the landscaping before you've built the foundation. It's kind of like you have to do certain things first before you can even really have a productive conversation about the fun stuff.
Right. No, I definitely agree. There's such a difference in our clients who have a coordinator or planner. Even someone who's super organized, we can totally see the difference on the day of in how they're acting and what they're worried about, if they've had Louise or another planner, or if they've just had their family or friend take care of those things. So especially now, I think with like I was saying before, with all the contracts that people need now and just the times we're in, it is really important to have someone that can lay out the foundation for you and really put into perspective what needs to happen before the wedding day with the bride and the groom, right? Not just the bride.
Yeah, and that's a trend that I'm really loving. And I don't know if it's just I'm lucky and I tend to attract clients where they like to plan the wedding together as a couple, or if it's just like the trend in general. But it's really nice to be able to incorporate, both personalities and styles and kind of see how they are as a couple, because it makes a lot more thoughtful of an event to celebrate them as a couple when I have both influences.
When both, yeah. No, that is, I love that. So what do you think is particularly different about Hawaii weddings versus like, mainland weddings or weddings elsewhere? I'm originally from California, and so I kind of see a difference in the vibe. I think they're a lot more relaxed, but I'm sure from your perspective of planning, you might have a different view. So what do you think is like the big difference between Hawaii or Oahu weddings versus, elsewhere?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm from the mainland as well. I grew up in Washington State, and I've lived here for 12 years. And I think one of the reasons that I attract so many destination couples is because I kind of am able to bridge that gap between understanding, the laid back lifestyle here at Hawaii and the expectations of my clients on the mainland. But I think really, one of the biggest differences is probably the resources available. Here in Hawaii, we don't have quite as many like rental options, or, even like you can't even get all the flowers here on the island just due to the agricultural restrictions sometimes. So you just have to get a little bit more creative sometimes. I don't think it's like a huge detriment as long as you're willing to be creative and a little bit flexible, but you're not always going to find the exact same flatware or chairs or linens that you might see on Pinterest that are widely available on the mainland.
Right, and you do flowers too, and so I'm sure that's a big difference. Everything being shipped here, you don't have the wholesale markets like in LA or wherever you can go pick up all the flowers. So what do you think there's what is the big difference with the flower aspect of wedding planning here versus maybe the mainland?
Yeah, I mean, luckily we're able to accomplish most everything that you see, in your inspiration on the internet and whatnot. But I think there's just a few things. Like recently, Hawaii banned the import of eucalyptus, and of course, everyone loves eucalyptus in all of their arrangements. And having designed with it for years as kind of like a standard, like filler greenery, it's kind of a bummer. So I mean, like that's just like a really specific example. But I think other things to consider is just you want to choose things that are maybe a little bit hardier in the heat. There's a lot of delicate things that we do use and we're just very mindful of them, but we often have to purchase way more than we need, knowing that a certain amount of wiltage is very likely to happen. So that might drive up costs. But I think that's probably something that on the mainland in the summer, florists are dealing with as well, but we're just kind of dealing with that all year round here with the temperature.
Yeah, and I think a bonus, Louise, with you is like, since you're planning the weddings and so much about the florals, your timing and everything, it doesn't have to be coordinated if you do have a client who books for both your services for wedding planning and florals. But she's great at florals. Everything is really tastefully done and always looks beautiful. Do you have like a preference of like the local flower inspirations versus like the roses and stuff like that from the mainland? Do you prefer one or the other?
Good question. So actually, I think my signature look is actually a blend of the two. I always say like my style is like English garden blended with like tropics, which is kind of like who I am. Like I come from Washington, which is kind of the same climate as like an English garden would be. And my mom always had a beautiful garden when I was growing up. So I spent a lot of time like with roses and sweet peas and all of those really kind of lovely flowers. But when I moved here, I really learned to love tropicals. At first I was afraid of them because they can be, very angular, like bird of paradise or, like really bold colors. But as someone who loves colors and texture, I found that when I combined the two, it just made it so fun and so unique and kind of was perfect for destination weddings and bringing it all together.
Yep, something familiar and then something from here. I totally agree. We definitely see that in your floral work. It's really amazing. Yeah, and so then let's see. Next, I guess the one thing we would kind of leave off with is most people, I think what our clients are looking for, and probably yours too, is like they kind of want to know like some do's and some don'ts. So I'm going to ask you if you have any like definite things you think that brides should do if they're planning the wedding, and then we'll go into like a couple of do not do's. Does that make sense? Do not do's? Do nots. A couple of do nots. So what do you think, Louise?
Yeah, so for do's, I mean, again, of course, I'm biased on this, but do hire a planner, whether you're a local bride or a destination bride or couple. I think just having someone guide you, whether it's like full service or even just consulting, will make the process not only less stressful, but you're even likely to spend less money because you're going to be making smart choices to get the most, bang for your buck, essentially. And also you're going to be more relaxed on your wedding day. So that's like my biggest do. I also recommend, if you can, visit before your wedding, to come and try and organize a visit where you see your venue, or like do site inspections before you book a venue, do some catering tastings, and of course do a hair and makeup trial. I love organizing that for my clients. We usually do like a 3 or 4 day visit where we pack it full of all these fun wedding planning tour of Hawaii, of Oahu things. I feel like my clients always feel much more confident in their decisions and excited about their wedding when they get to do that at the beginning stages. I feel like don't procrastinate. It's really easy to procrastinate and like leave everything to the week of your wedding. Just because you're like, oh, it's not urgent, or it's just hard to make decisions sometimes. But I work really hard with my clients to encourage them to get as many things done as early as possible, just to kind of make that week of your wedding fun. It should be fun and not stressful, and you shouldn't be having to worry about the details. What other don'ts? Yeah, don't fly in the day before your wedding. That just seems like super stressful. Don't get a sunburn. I learned that from Allison.
Oh yeah, no, that is like our number one. We're like, I think our sun here is different, and so even if it is, the rehearsal dinner and they're decide to do it outside somewhere, there's a chance that there can be, some direct sunlight. We're always like, no, you'll be glowing on a level you don't want to be glowing.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I have another do. Do eat breakfast or lunch when you're getting ready. I have seen it go wrong, and now I'm a big advocate of eating something early in the day.
Yeah, we always remind them too. We're like, what have you eaten? Okay, that's not enough. I think, that everyone deals with stress differently. Some people, eat too much, or some people drink, or some people don't eat, and some people don't drink. So I think it's good that they get reminders from everyone, even now, while you might be planning your wedding. It's good to have a reminder now. That is I think that's definitely a do. And then do not drink too much, right? That's a do not.
Yeah, for sure. And even like when it comes to eating on the wedding day, like planning ahead of time what you're going to have either delivered or have, someone in your wedding party bring in, can be really helpful. So you're not scrambling while you're in the middle of nowhere on the North Shore getting ready for your wedding, trying to figure out what to eat.
Right. I think that goes back to the resources thing and the traffic and stuff like that. We've, definitely had clients who kind of wing it on the food. And that's one of actually our tips too, is know, kind of what's around, and if you even like that, because on the morning of your wedding, you don't want to be eating, something that you're not really in the mood for, especially with all the nerves. So always like, yeah, if you're on the North Shore, we've had some of your brides have, beautifully catered, breakfast come, and we're always like, oh, that is Louise, of course, making sure they have a good, beautiful breakfast, or even packing the, protein bars and stuff, because it's a long day, and if you're driving, there's traffic for sure. So yeah, no, food is on our priorities too. And then Louise, so I know these times have been crazy with the coronavirus, and I know we have some weddings coming up next year, and Hawaii's working on figuring out, their plans on getting everyone here safely again. Do you have any, tips or anything that your brides are doing a little bit different besides, I guess, probably guest count, but is there any little things that have changed at all because of COVID that you could recommend brides who are planning look into doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, obviously things are so unknown, and we don't know if, we'll be able to have events like we did before next year, or if we'll still have to be making modifications. I like to kind of plan for the best and the worst. And I think the best way to do that, I found with my clients right now, planning for 2021, is just making sure that they have a wedding website for their guests, because a lot of them have sent out save the dates to their 200 plus guest list, and they might not be able to invite all of them in the end. So just having something on the wedding website basically stating like, we're really hoping we can have you all there, but just we're being very mindful of regulations, and we'll update you closer, but we may not be able to invite everyone, and in which case we'll do a virtual addition to our wedding or something along those lines. But I think just having that kind of like open communication with your guests via a wedding website is huge.
I think that is so great. I think that's like the best tip to leave off this little questionnaire, little interview chat, because like you said, these times are, different, but that's probably the most, what would you say, relaxing way or easy way on the bride.
Yeah.
Yeah, optimistic, but then, you're not calling everybody and telling them the update every few days, which is just exhausting. So that is just an amazing tip. I, highly suggest that for anybody planning your wedding, whether it's in Hawaii or elsewhere. I think, Louise, that is great. Like, just get a website, give everybody the link, and say, check this out if you want to know the update, and don't text me.
Yes, that's definitely adding a lot of stress to our couple. So we're all about coming up with stress-free alternatives.
Yes, that is great. Louise, do you have anything else you want to share with anyone watching the videos, or do you have anything else to leave them with?
I think my biggest tip right now is if you are planning a wedding or considering starting to plan a wedding for 2021 or even 2022, now's a great time to get started. Not only are dates like filling up really quickly just because everyone's rescheduled, but it's a great way to support local vendors, who are trying to get to the next event right now. And you're going to get amazing customer service from everyone, and their full attention and love, of course. So don't hesitate to start planning. Find those vendors that you love and trust, and we'll help guide you through the process.
Right. Yep. It's I definitely see that we've been getting inquiries for 2022, which and 2021, and I think that's great because people are always welcome to get married, no matter what, So it's good to see the future will be bright and everyone's going to be ready to be back to work in full force, right, Louise?
Yep, we're ready.
Yes, we are. Thank you so much, Louise, for sharing all of your wonderful insight. Louise, is there anywhere they can find your information at?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're big on Instagram. We have two handles, actually. We have love_letter_weddings with an S at the end for our main planning Instagram. And then we have Love Letter Weddings Floral, all one word, just focusing on all of our beautiful floral designs. And of course, you can always check us out at our website, loveletterweddings.com.
Thank you so much, Louise. We will give all of that information over to our viewers, and we appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye. I really hope this interview with Louise was informative for all of you. Her team is so amazing and so detail-oriented. Her clients are always so relaxed and so happy on their wedding day. You can find all of Love Letter Weddings information in the description below. And don't forget, the links to all of the other episodes in this series will be there as well. Please take a second to follow us on Instagram at Reveal Hair and Makeup. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye.